Good afternoon. Welcome to one of these. I'm joined by the celebrity duo, the Knight that says "Nyeh," and Chris B in his special little chamber that he likes to retreat to occasionally.
Chamber.
I hope you're chamber. I hope you're all well. Thank you for the recent subscriptions. They're all aiding the cause, and we should hope to retire to our own island in due course. So we're a little bit late to getting to the party because we're grown-ups and we have real lives. And Chris was doing something unmentionable because he got the afternoon off. But what we want to talk to you about is West Ham, and then we'll talk about some other bits and pieces as well. So do you want to kick us off, Chris, and remind us of the joy, the unmirrored, unequaled delights of playing West Ham United away?
I think I've enjoyed going to better funerals. It was 2 hours of my life that I was never going to get back. It was every inch 16th playing 17th. The football was a joke. The tempo was pathetic. It was too poorly coached and poor quality sides. Lily White-Phillips spread her legs once again and let one straight through into the back of the net. Lily White-Phillips, who is indeed our goalkeeping captain, who has proven once and for all that he is rubbish. The only one to come out of that game with any credit, in my opinion, was Danso, who I thought had a decent 90 minutes, deputised very well for Romero. But again, how were you going to win a game where your midfield was Decky, who is broken, half the player he was before he went off with injury? You had Basuma and you had Papa Mathys, who collectively between them just simply not good enough. I don't know what either of them offer. And then, as we were commenting during the game, Tony, up front, Mathys Tel, what is he all about? What does he offer? You had did Richarlison start?
That's a very small one of those.
Did Richarlison start? Remind me. Yeah, he did, didn't
he?
Yeah. So Richarlison offered absolutely nothing, and then Odobert, yes, he scored a goal, but the calamity that is Max Kilman set up an opportunity that any of us three would have put away. So there were no positives to take from the match. Anybody who's prepared to lose game after game after game because we've got our eyes firmly on the Europa League need to have a good look at themselves. Because of the 19 defeats we've suffered this season, it appears that we think loss and defeats is acceptable. So for me, it was a complete waste of a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, I got to say, for me, I put on my little funny, hilarious thing here, but failure is the new normal. I'm going to wheel this out yet again, going to West Ham and being content with anything less than a win is unacceptable. They are big rivals, and if they're at the bottom of the table, I don't care where we are, if they're at the bottom of the table like that, they should be put to the sword. They should be savaged and left scattered across the grounds of their village to remind everybody that the conquering army came and it dealt with them appropriately. I haven't got a time of day for that bloody club. People wanging on about Arsenal. I understand it. But if you know your history, and again, read Does Your Rabbi Know You're Here? This is one of our very earliest enemies, and it predates all of the stuff that's been slightly kind of confected and blah, blah, blah. So I'm not taking anything away from people that have got a massive ache on for Arsenal, but from a historical perspective and against being a nice human being perspective, West Ham are further down the pecking order. And I think that they are due a kicking every time we see them. And obviously I'm speaking metaphorical because I'm not a big fan of physical violence. But they should have been dealt with. And we went there and we didn't have a game plan. Said after the Bodo Glimt game or whatever they're called, the lack of Ange ball, when you went through the data, it was another game where we mirrored exactly the same performance, where we had lots of short passing, which is the Ange way, but there wasn't enough of it. And there was a lot of lost possession with errant passing. And that was sprinkled gently across the bulk of the team. There wasn't anybody that was really outstanding. Danso looked decent again, and he has looked decent, but everybody else, and I fear I absolutely fear for this game now on Thursday with the news that James Maddison might be out for the season. That came from Alex Crook from Talksport. Might be out for the rest of the season, but there's no way in hell that he's going to be available for Thursday. And a midfield without him, and you're talking about Bissouma, who's basically just cuckoo out to lunch. I think his IQ is probably in the top double figures, but that's about it. His footballing IQ is shocking. And if we're going to see him and Papa Matasar, I mean, you're just going to have to hope that Bentancur gets stuck in, because there isn't enough there. There isn't enough there. And Ange is going on and on and on and on and on about this bloody, it's a juggle, it's a this, it's a that. And as I said in one of my shorts that I did recently, real football managers, like proper qualified proper football managers from proper football parts of the world, opposed to, the Yokohama yo-yos and the rest of it, and the Celtic ladies and all of it, they must be laughing out loud at him. Because what he's describing in his tedious little round the campfire speeches with the press pack, who don't call him out, don't ask him any awkward questions, he's describing managing. And you'd think he was working in a neuroscience lab. You have to rotate your team, and he doesn't know what he simply doesn't know what he's doing. So where are you at the moment, Tony? Are you happy?
Sorry, mate. I'm delirious, mate. I'll tell you what. You don't hear when Liverpool were in the Champions League and competing on a number of fronts. You didn't hear him moaning about juggling things, did you?
No, because he's a grown-up.
Yeah, exactly that. As to Sunday, I don't understand how you're so unhappy with Bissouma. He was brilliant on Sunday. The reason why he was brilliant because he never got involved.
Yeah, he didn't have a hair out of place. He was playing dross, and he looked like he just stepped out of a salon.
It was brilliant. It was great watching his contribution or lack thereof, because at least even with 10 players and Bissouma, we'd have probably done better. It was just one of those. We keep coming back to the same thing. Winning habits beget winning habits. You keep winning, guess what? You get into a habit, and your team play is more motivated. You get a pattern of play going that works well, and habit. Those good habits are instilled, and they get built in almost. They become almost the default of what you should be doing. And I don't see anything of that nature at all going on anywhere on the pitch. Interesting, you played Decky on Sunday, considering that if Thursday is such an important game, do you not really want him as fit as possible? And actually having a plan. I don't get that team selection at all. It made no sense to me. If you're going to basically say I'm going to rein it in, I'm just not going to bother. Fine, just play all the kids then. Just play all the bloody kids and see what they can do.
What it said to me, Tony, was that Spence clearly had the arsehole. Looks like he'd had himself put out that he's not involved in the big games, as his performance wasn't anything to write home about, and he made a number of lazy passes and conceded defeat, and generally looked very unhappy throughout.
Well, the unhappiness of players, though, the unhappiness of players tends to come from the fact that what's going on behind the scenes is a bunch of shit, and there are a lot of very unhappy players because there's no coaching of any sort going on, no motivation from the manager. Let's face it, a manager's supposed to motivate. Now, you need to ask kick every now and again to give somebody a reminder that they're not, they're there to do a job. You give them an arse kicking every now and again, as you would in any form of management. But 99% of your management should be motivation. It should be about making sure that the players are ready mentally, physically at their best. And I never see any of that with him. Never, none of it. Never.
It's interesting when it's funny you've just said that, because I don't have the words verbatim, but I did a short on it the other day. It's one of the ones where I'm stood in front of the graffiti thing, and I was quoting what Ange said after they'd done the post Liverpool training. So they had been handed their asses up in the Northwest. And he then came out with this, well, I'm giving them feedback, and sometimes you put noses out of joint, but I think they're receptive to what we're trying to tell them, and I want them to grow. I mean, the idea that you're talking about growth when you're 16th in the division in the latter stages of the season, I think he's just detached from reality. And I don't think he has the interpersonal skills to bring any harmony or group together unless, and again, I go back to it because I've made the point before. So what did he do in Japan? What did he do in Scotland? Well, he was dealing with half-wits. And I'm not saying that you have to nod and kowtow to Premier League footballers, but you're going to need enhanced communication skills. Because there's a difference between running a warehouse full of warehouse men who are moving boxes around and running NASA, where you're dealing with people who've got extraordinarily highly skilled brains. You know, you need two different types of managers for dealing with people working in the spaceship industry and people working in the fruit and veg moving around wholesale industry. And I think this is one of the another one of the indicators that he's completely out of his depth. Yes, technically he is a man manager, but not at this level. He's the sort of guy that would manage cleaning out a very nastily blocked toilet, but you wouldn't put the guy who could clean out a toilet in the NASA building.
How can he say such patent bollocks like that, and he's 2 years into his job? You know, what's he been doing for the last 2 years then?
Exactly. I mean, he talks about growth as if he's, like I said the other day, it's like he's got this little scroll. He's one of these weirdos. Well, I'm looking at you Australian nutcases that are still leaving ridiculous comments all over the internet. Thankfully, we have managed to shed most of you. You've gone back to your walkabout or whatever it is you get up to. But it's like he's got this little scroll with his secret ingredients in, and he thinks he's a metallurgist in the Middle Ages. And as I said yesterday, he can't turn potatoes into gold. He's a sack of potatoes with an Australian accent. And the sooner we're shot of him, the better. What cannot lie, what cannot speak, cannot lie. And we're 16th in the division. And if we weren't playing sides that are the wrong end of 10-1, then we wouldn't have the Europa League to cling on to. So, yes, I hope we win it. I hope everybody's delighted. I'll be pleased. Of course I'll be pleased. I'll be pleased if somebody left the Europa Cup trophy outside my apartment door. Of course, I'd be delighted. But the reality is it's not even papering over the cracks. It's a scratch card win. It really is. You couldn't get much shitter opposition if you tried. And that's the truth. I'm not being grumpy and trying to make it sound ooh bad. Most of these sides that we faced have been at the wrong end of 10-1. And the only side that we've played so far who weren't were the AK mob, and we squeezed past them. Didn't whistle past them, and we should have been more like a sort of steam train. And as I say, the bookies have seen the performances, and we're no longer favourites to win that cup. I hope we win. I can't emphasise that enough, but you've got to listen to what I say and be able to hold two distinctly different thoughts in your head at the same time. And if you can't do that, then I'm just a massive racist who doesn't like people from down under. And you didn't hear anything else. But it's a complete farce where we are. Well, it's an utter farce.
I think Wenger hit the nail on the head over the weekend where he was critical about the winners of the Europa League getting the prize of entry into the Champions League. And he's absolutely right. Everybody in that Europa League so far has been dross. There's not been a decent team in there so far. The whole qualifying campaign, with the exception of probably Eintracht Frankfurt, and even they weren't particularly fantastic. Everybody else has been... You've shook your head. You've had to Google their players. There's been nothing about any of them. You think, how would we have fared if we'd been in the Champions League? Well, having discussed it previously, but having watched Barcelona against Inter Milan last weekend, there'd have been a referee in the middle of the pitch counting us out for our own good.
Giving us a standing count. Yeah. I mean, and just on the business of Ange, because what we're talking about here is the joy that he sucked out of this business, and it is a bloody business. And I said years ago, I think it was during the COVID thing, it might have been afterwards, and I said, because I'm just a human being, I'm not a master of minds or anything, and I said football has to feed us, because I didn't think they were doing a good enough job, because my traffic was in the bin along with everybody else's, and now our traffic is in the bin because of one stupid, grotesquely overweight, morbidly obese fuckwit. Our business is in the bin. And like I said to you weeks ago, anybody saying, oh, it's not that bad, you're making it up. You're just like Fatty himself. You're making it up.
For us to stand any chance of success this season with potentially Maddison out, alongside Bergvall. He's going to need to show some invention, and he's going to have to think outside that box that we always speak about, because where is the creativity going to come from in that team? Do you think about sticking Mikey Moore in the middle? Do you think about what's the options?
I actually think you're right. And I think what we're going to see is another masterclass from the Antipodean. And by that, I mean another revisit of what we saw with Jed Spence, whereby there was nobody else in the building. Go on out there, son, do what I taught you to do, by ignoring you and treating you like a piece of dirt for the last however many months it's been. Sent him out against West Ham. This business of throwing him on and doing this sort of and slotting and all this nonsense, you don't know what you're doing. I'll tell you this, right? Because my brain isn't wired like many other people's. I was walking around the city centre this morning and I saw two homeless guys walking down the road, and one was berating the other and clearly telling him that he'd done something wrong. And it was probably an argument over a cigarette butt or something. I don't know. And I don't care. But one guy, and he had the guy doing the berating, his hand was bandaged. So his life wasn't great. They're both sleeping in shop doorways, one would presume. And I thought to myself, that's Ange. The guy doing the berating is Ange. What is he telling the other guy that's going to benefit him any? He's in the same level of dustbin shuffling and homelessness and despair as you are. He's got nothing to impart. So he will turn around to Mikey Moore with the wealth of experience, because he's been doing this for 6 years or whatever it is, and say, right, what I want you to do, because everybody else is broken, I've ruined the rest of the squad and I don't have a midfield left, is I want you to, and I hope Mikey Moore does the business. But I mean that in the same way that I hope we win the cup. I hope we do it despite Ange, because if he had anything about him, Moore has shown to me in the fragments of time that we've seen, more interest and wit and imagination that we've seen from so many other performers, and we've had tons of game time to a lot. But he's now sitting there, and as you said, Chris and Tony, the deal with Arne Slot and every other bloody manager in the league, they don't come out with this crap that he's come out with because they have self-respect. And they know that the job is about balancing and juggling the whole time. It's called managing. You know, it's like a manager in a supermarket saying, God, this morning, God, yeah, we just got the milk out in time. Mate, that's the job. I hate to break it to you. Nobody's going to give you a whoop and a badge and a whistle and that's the job. You got to get the milk off the van and onto the chilled fridges. That is your job. And Ange's talking us through this as if, like I said before, he's like a neuroscientist. He's wandering around the lab. Well, I'll tell you what, mate, there's some fascinating bits of kit in there. I'm not sure what they all do. It's a cretin.
Wasn't it a throwback, though, on Sunday to see a young man come off the bench with his socks around his ankles?
Oh, mate, I loved it.
Shin pads on display. And he wanted the football. It's something that we've not been used to from a while from our wide players.
Honestly,
he was a kid who wanted the ball and he wanted to try things.
Yeah,
and it was a breath of fresh air.
Even if you didn't watch him, even if you did, that just, I'm going to sound like a silly old sentimental goat, and I don't care. But that kind of melted my heart a bit, because suddenly I was getting flashes of Steve Archibald, Glenn Hoddle, Garth Crooks, and the business, like you say, with the shin pad poking out, and we haven't got shin pads, so I'll just put a couple of programs in. I'm ready for action. And he just
jumpers for goalposts, isn't it? Jumpers for goalposts.
Yeah, and there you go, son. Have a quick go on this Rothman before you go out. I mean, it's just tremendous, and I want to see more of it. Call me an old-fashioned fool. I want to see more of it. What do you think? What do you think lies in the future for us, Tony?
What I think lies in the future, more misery and despair at this rate.
It's the front of the oncoming train.
The thing is, for me, when Decky was having his really sweet spot before he got injured, where he was absolutely on fire and ripping the place up, where was he playing his best? He was in the middle.
Yeah,
that was where he was ripping it up and absolutely running the games, every single game. He's come back and he's stuck him straight out on the wings again. It's just like, do you not fucking understand? Did you not learn from any? Well, did you? These are all rhetorical questions because we know he doesn't learn.
Yes, so note to the audience, none of these questions are actually aimed at the man who has no answers.
Yeah. And it's just like, we can see it. but nobody at the club can see it. None of his. Oh well, I hesitate to use the word brain trust, more like fart trust for these bunch of monkeys, because they're as useless as a fart in a wind tunnel. Honestly, I just don't understand. If I saw, if we saw a pattern, if you saw something distinct going on, but it's the Ange, like you say, we've said this for ages. Ange ball is gone. So we're left with this dross that's behind, which doesn't have any form of identity. It's like a pile of goo on that you're stepping outside a dodgy nightclub or something on a Saturday night, and you think, what is this? What is this fucking shit I'm stepping in? And it just feels like that every time you watch us.
Do you remember when you were a kid, they used to do those puzzles where you had to navigate the little silver ball through the sort of maze, and you did it by moving. It was a tilt and turn in your hand. That's like watching us play football. You can think you're heading down, I just need to take the next left. What the fuck? I've had some kind of aneurysm. It's gone sharply to the right, and you say about Dejan Kulusevski, and not only did he excel, he was improved in the middle of the park, and Ange didn't notice, but Ange also didn't notice that he was running himself raw ragged. He was bare ragged. Now, any coach would have picked up on the fact that, and I'm not making light here, but a ginger guy comes off, boing, boing, boing. It was pretty clear. It's not like it's not about race. It's about cosmetics. It's not like a black guy or a Chinese guy. You can't see exactly how quite poop they are. It's like when you see a white boxer, he comes off and he's got all these pink and red blotches all over his face. Whereas, your Joe Bugner and Muhammad Ali weren't exactly looking mashed up, but they still were carrying the same bruises and still hit with the same force. But he doesn't know what he's looking at. And as you say, he's not managed. And again, it's that awful word. He's not managed Kulusevski, who did well, and he's now pushed himself over the brink. It's only by luck rather than judgment. It goes back to the biophysics thing you were talking about before, Tony, about the how susceptible are you to getting a hamstring or a ligament cruciate, something like that. And he doesn't get it. He doesn't go that way because he doesn't run that way. But physically, he's put too many miles on the clock. And that's been allowed under Ange's management, with the word miss stuck on the front of it.
I think after one of those games you were talking about where he came off all red and God knows what, I think scientists at CERN were thinking they'd just discovered a new bloody Higgs boson or something. Honestly, he was so radioactive by the time he came out of there. Honestly, it was ridiculous.
He looked like he's sleeping under his car.
Well, he looked like he'd been to Hiroshima and got a double dose of something. But it's just ridiculous. Like you say, the point is that when you've by hook or by crook, whether it's by accident or design, if you found something where somebody really works in the position they are, you go, guess what? This is working. I'm going to stick with it until it stops working. Yeah. And then I'll do something else. So, but what does he do? No, he gets injured. He sticks him straight back out on the wing again. And it's not like it's not like he can say, well, I can't replace anybody in the midfield because I can't, because all these guys in the midfield have been doing an absolutely stellar job for me. It's not like he can actually go use that as a claim for anything. And last night I watched two teams whose midfields were absolutely battering the crap out of each other at Crystal Palace against Nottingham Forest. That was it may not have been the most exciting. It was a good game. It was a good football game because both teams were going at each other. They weren't necessarily being as successful as you probably want, but both midfields were working so hard and breaking each other down. But there was also some quality passing going on. We don't have that, that killer pass person in the midfield. We have people who break it up, pass it off to somebody else, and hope somebody else does something. You're in the midfield. You break it up, you pass it forward.
And the thing that continues to upset me is that when we went to Blackburn all those occasions to watch Ashley Phillips, there was a certain Adam Wharton playing week in, week out in central midfield. As opposed to bringing back the crown jewels, we brought back the old rags and carpet that Anthony Florence had left. And we came back with Fernandez. Probably never going to be seen in our first team anytime soon.
Mate, it's the Fernandez effect, isn't it? Go, wanting Bruno and getting Gedson, isn't it?
Yeah,
unbelievable. I mean, we are a typo. of a
But
club
hey,
at the
at least
moment.
we should take a moment collectively to embrace, acknowledge, and thank Ben Davies for his 300th appearance for the club. A
Yeah,
bloke who's been with us for 11 seasons. Look, he's a
I,
model professional, doesn't
I,
complain or moan. But any club that's had a piece of furniture for 11 years without upgrading it, it tells you everything you need to know, doesn't it?
yeah. I mean, he is your archetypal faithful servant who has been, and I don't know a servant because slavery was abolished in the 1800s. For those of you wondering about what the word means, oh no, that's right. You guys don't even wonder about that. You just shout words at people. But you've got to wonder what sort of servant is being paid on the wrong end of 100 grand a week, because his money's gone up and up and up and up and up. And yeah, it's great that he's there and he's reliable and he knows where the toilets are and he's able to help people to the fire exits. But why, in the name of, you know, supplementary benefit, is he wandering around the building being lauded as a club elder statesman? It's embarrassing. It's
well, mate,
embarrassing.
as an elder statesman and somebody who's done 300 games for the club, do you think we should all do a crowdfund for a flyby?
Yeah, I don't think I think the farmers are having enough days of action and strike type things mooting around. I don't know if they'd have the energy to drop silage over N17 in the current climate. I could be wrong.
Would anybody notice the difference though? That's the problem.
Yeah. Unbelievable. But yeah, Ange's total mismanagement to complete bankrupting. His bankruptcy of ideas is just bewildering. And so, like I say, predict the future. I'll tell you what's going to happen. Mikey Moore's going to be thrown into the mix. Won't start, I don't think. He won't start on Thursday. I think it'll be played as we would. You can imagine Ange saying, I mean, maybe we win, I don't know, but maybe, you know, could it be that Ange is saying, well, I was hoping the substitutions would give us a bit of glimmer of hope. You know, he's just a crook.
You're not reading the room, H.
No,
you're not reading the room. There's a plot twist about to come, and it's Super Son returning to lift the team, show his outstanding captaincy, and get us over the finish line. You can see all the South Korean flags, and it'll be Son, man, go you Son, and he's going to come back and single-handedly he's going to lead us past somebody in the final.
I tell you something. I mean, that's perhaps the ultimate tragedy of this, that we're relying on a guy that's clearly burnt out, lost not half a yard but 2.5 yards. Great guy, been an absolute ambassador for football, world football, you name it. Tremendous goal maker, tons of assists, a joy on the eye, but he's over the hill now. And there are times when you have to make difficult decisions. And I spoke about having the dog put down last year. You have to acknowledge that nothing lasts forever. And that's the reality with footballers. And unfortunately, well done, Harry Kane, for getting out. Tremendous that you got your Vauxhall hubcap from the jewellery store. I mean, it's just tremendous. Clearly, he was absolutely delighted. Earns every plaudit going. He's broken his duck. Eric Dyer was there with him. Unfortunately, I have to add, but no, well done, boys. Good luck to them. Good luck to them. But as I say, they got out. And Sonny hasn't got out, and consequently, he started to go under the water a little as he's getting older.
Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, it's just desperate. And the problem is, of course, with the game on Thursday is that the amount of Koreans that will actually be there with their little flags and their selfie sticks and all the rest of it is going to be pretty negligible, because they're all part of the London tourist exchange.
I was looking at the weather ahead of the game on Thursday night, and it's scheduled to be 9 degrees. So don't give me any of this nonsense that we're playing in near freezing conditions. 9 degrees.
No, 9 degrees is probably a pretty sort of optimal, what would you call it, footballing weather.
Well, you and I'd have the factor 50 out, wouldn't we?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't use any supplementary lotions or potions at all.
Yeah,
not down there anyway. Not down there anyway.
not down there, mate.
But you would imagine that any team with anything about them would have been practicing on plastic pitches, not Tottenham. We'll just turn up, have a kick around before the game, and come up with a plan from that point on.
And doesn't it say something about the mindset of where we are as a group of supporters? That you're going into a game where you've got a 2-goal advantage, thinking this could go either way. Not thinking we're going to win this. No, we're going to win this. We're there. We're virtually in the final now. It's like, shit. This is this is not done, and that says everything about the way this club has been managed.
Well, let me throw into the mix an interesting factoid for you. This is going to be a very interesting game on the basis that, yes, we're 2 goals up, but we're playing away from home, and the side that were, what were they? They went into sevens. That's right. They went into 7-1. Playing at home, they're 15-8, 7-4, and Spurs are 6-5. So I wouldn't say it's a cigarette paper, but there's very little difference between the two. But there's no big conquering price for Tottenham. Your best bet is probably about 10-13, something like that, which, to translate that into the old money, is that Spurs are not massive favourites with a 2-goal advantage. That game is being billed by the same people that fibbed to you, was my suggestion a few weeks ago. The bookmakers who fibbed to you and said Spurs were going to win this tournament are now saying that if we travel to the Antarctic in 9 degrees with a 2-goal lead, not it could go either way, but we're not massive favourites. We're not at a price that one would automatically think, well, I've got enough for the food and I could probably, risk a tenner. I don't think the betting on Spurs is going to be significant at those numbers.
Well, mate, if we travel to the Antarctic, we won't be playing, will we?
Well, I got pulled up last week on the difference between the North Pole and the South Pole, so I'm going to keep quiet.
I've just been pulled up. I've just been pulled up on it now by Salah.
Other than saying we're playing at a really cold place.
Yeah, and if you mention God one more time, I shall move you closer to him. To quote Basil Fawlty. But
I mean, you're mistaken there. Tony suffers from dyslexia and spent all last night wondering if there really was a dog.
Yeah, he was very lucky not to get arrested. He went into his local bank and said, "Give me all the money," and the teller said to him, "Put the GNU down." But yeah,
I went into the bank and I said, "Give me all your honey, not money."
Weirdo.
If I suffer from dyslexia, mate, you got to take this to its extreme. You see, if I'm a dyslexia, then I'm going to get confused, isn't I? Come on,
you need to work on your dating apps, is what I would suggest. So yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty seismic that the betting is like, as I was saying 5 minutes ago. Oh yeah, everybody we played have been sort of 7, 8, 9, 10-1, and now we're going into a side that's only a couple of points south of where we are. So he's got it all to do.
Did you see that stuff I shared with you towards the latter end of the week, where one of the Bodo Glimt players was saying how easy it is to play at the Tottenham press?
Yeah. The quote was quite chilling. Do you know what that confused me? And I don't say this for effect. I didn't grasp, despite the fact it was a player shirt or whatever he had on. I thought that was their coach talking.
No, one of their
that was one of their players. I mean, we don't have any players that talk like that. The closest we've got was Decky coming out with the this, that, and the other, and he wants to do well. He spoke like a captain, straightforwardly, but that hasn't been managed and it hasn't been contained. And whatever good that he wants to do, he's going to be going into that game against that lot, and he won't be 100%. Which, if you consider that this big oaf of a coach that we've got with his fake credentials from various illustrious footballing pinnacles of the world, hasn't been able to manage any of his squad properly. And I go back to it again. No, it's boring because we keep saying it every week. But who's improved? Who's improved underneath his guidance?
Not a single person.
Let's put it into perspective then. When you talk about the fact that we're going to their manor, they beat FC Twente 5-2.
Yeah, they
their
got like
ground.
something like a 70% win ratio at home,
Yeah.
haven't they? But a
You know,
6% away
they
from
beat
home.
Olympiacos. They beat Olympiacos 3-0, and they beat Lazio 2-0 in their last 3 games at home in the Europa League. So and
those
we're going there now.
artificial pitches, and as I say, I'm a horribly unreliable witness because I'm talking about a period in my life where I was probably 17, 18, something like that, playing on artificial surfaces, bit shale or the boing 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 like rubber mat type stuff, twice a day,
We
and you
look at
got
it.
used to it. You got used to it, and when you played on grass, you felt like you were running through porridge, because the
Well,
surface was so strong and so reliable and so uniform.
we pissed it against Tamworth in the cup, though, didn't we?
Tamworth.
Yeah, to look
Well,
how
this is
easy we
where
found that experience.
exactly. This is where going back to what we were saying before. We said this on the last cast, and we've said this consistently since this all came up. I would be playing if the league is gone. We can't go any worse than 17. I'd have been playing all the players you're not going to be playing, and the rest of the squad you'd have had non-stop practicing on artificial surface, so you can actually. And then he comes up with this crap about all artificial surfaces are different. You kind of missed the point, mate. You know, artificial surfaces are only vaguely different. They are not so different that if you play on one at the training ground and you go there, that it's so different that you can't actually adjust.
Well, the other point as well, Tony, I would say, being the miserable character that I am, that artificial surfaces are all different unless you're both playing in the 21st century. This is a modern football club. They'll have a pitch that was produced in the last 5 years. We will have a artificial pitch that was produced in the last 5 years. Shut up. It's going to be no difference. It's going to be tuppence halfpenny difference between the two surfaces. You need to, like you were saying there the other week, you need to get the fact that the ball, when it travels through the air, it flies off the surface. That's how the ball reacts to the artificial surface. You get more of a bounce. I mean, the temptation to strike, and I'm wondering, I haven't looked at these goals, but I'm wondering how many were volleys or half volleys, because the amount of time that the ball disproportionately sort of can just bobble up, and you think, fucking great, I get my laces right through that. I mean, I remember playing on those surfaces, and the amount of times that the ball would go in the goal, not always by me, but by other people, by strikers, and you wouldn't even bloody see it because it was traveling so fast. And that was a snapshot of playing on an artificial surface. So you don't need to go to the same warehouse that they made their surface from. You just need to play on something, like I say, which within a few years has come out of some place in China. But it's if we are acting like strangers on that surface as we did against the Tamworth.
No Tommy
nothing shy
either.
nothing shy of a disgrace.
But we all know how Tottenham play, and we all know never to be surprised by anything.
No, it'll. I mean, I'm looking forward to this game in some respects, but not in the most benevolent ways, I think.
I think it's more of a fear factor, isn't it? The thing is like you say, it's not so much about we're going in there exuding confidence. It's going in there thinking, will we fuck it up like we always do?
Will we revert to type and implode?
Yeah, basically, will we honour the Spursy tag that we are now strung with for the rest of our existence?
So, taking us away from the advancing meteorite in the sky, Cuti Romero. There is a quote which I don't have to hand, but it doesn't really warrant much muddling of words, from the Atletico Madrid coach, basically saying, "Come on in, the water's lovely." And here is like Argentina, was the second part of the quote, which I do recall. It's what you would call in the old money a proper old tap up that's gone on there. You don't get much more of a come and get it big boy than he's given him there. Romero cost us 42.5 million. I suspect that Levy will want a nice fat 20 million on top. What are your thoughts on that? Because it looks to me like it's all over bar the shouting.
Goodbye, God bless. Thanks for the memories. No one's bigger than the football club, are they? No name on the back of the shirt's bigger than the crest on the front of it. And he's been angling for a move away for ages. And he's, I think Danso's a more than adequate replacement. And what I do think is that this summer there's going to be a massive clear out, as I think there's loads of players there that aren't going to feature in whoever comes through the doors plans.
I think in straightforward terms, we're looking at another Lo Celso.
Yeah.
Which sounds like an Alan Partridge. It's another Lo Celso situation, but it is. It's the same bloody thing. Love my club, love my country even more.
Play well for my country, make myself permanently available. But he thinks he's Franz Beckenbauer, that lad, but he's somewhat not.
Yeah. You said thanks for all the memories, and I'm struggling to have a memory of anything worthy of him apart from getting red cards all the time.
I'm surrounded by professionals and intelligent people, so I've got to appear smart today, Tony. I can't be my usual hateful self.
And that was Chris just reminding us there that he thinks that Cuti Romero is a right old prick.
No, I think it's the abbreviations. See you next Tuesday.
Yeah, as the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy once said, Douglas Adams once said, "So long and thanks for all the fish." You know, that'll do for me. I mean, off your trot.
For me, Romero was interesting when he had that edge to him, and he was on the verge of getting a card. So it was like when he got a yellow, he was picking. I think it was the Edgar Davies line. He said, "I've got so many cards, I think it's Christmas." But he had a bit of a swagger and a bit of an edge to him when we first got him. Then somebody, and it might have been our master in control, the Lord of the Footballs himself, Ange, who said to him, "Mate, can you just calm down? Otherwise, your transfer fee doesn't look great value if you're going to spend most of it, being suspended." But after he went through that phase, which I have to say does kind of coincide with the first 10 games, that new manager bounce that we've called out, and everybody else was talking about the good old Ange Ball days. But after that, we didn't really get much bang for our buck. So I don't think it'll be a great loss. It'll be a nice little earner. But as we know, with every bloody deal to do with Spurs, and for those of you still struggling to work that one out, look at where the Harry Kane money went. And we're going to be doing on the game in the Europa League Cup. Going to be starting with what? Solanke and Tel. Ooh, how exciting!
We could be dynamic and put Richarlison in the mixture as well.
Yeah, the dolly mixtures. I mean, really.
Yeah, you look at Bournemouth. You look at clubs like Bournemouth. In the game, did the number on Arsenal on Saturday. Hyson at the back. What a player! What an absolute find.
Well,
the thing is, there's no way we're going to get him. There's no way we're even close to getting him. He's going to go somewhere like Barca, I would imagine, or somewhere like that.
The Ukrainian lad alongside him is not a bad player either.
Oh, who's that one? What's his name? He's not Kirk. No, Kirk is out on the left, isn't he?
No,
but he's a decent.
Ilya Kabany or something like that.
Zabarnyi. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, he's a good player.
Manopfela.
Ukrainian's not my first language. I'd just like it to be known.
English isn't your first language, mate.
Sort of make it up as I go along, to be perfect.
I just use words from getting from A to B. He says.
Yeah.
You think about if Romero did go, if a deal was struck, who could adequately replace him? You've got Danso already there, but you're going to need somebody else. Who do you think realistically? There's loads of players out there who would be better than Romero, but who would realistically be attracted to want to come to us, given the absolute state that we're in, and the chance?
You're sounding very arrogant and entitled, I have to say. I mean, we're just extolling the virtues of Ben Davies and his versatility, and you're asking us for another body. I mean, I'm staggered. It's a very contemptible way of talking, when you've got such stellar meat hanging up in the cold storage unit.
Oh, fuck off. You say it's good meat being carried cold storage. It's like roadkill you found 5 years ago.
How can we replace him? Well, there's a badger over there, and I think one of his legs is still moving. Got caught by an Amazon van earlier this morning. I mean, but that's the reality, Tony. We're going to sell this guy, make a few quid on top, which is great business, but it leaves us back to square one because, like, who's going to come? Who's going to put in see a mega bid from Daniel Levy and not fall about laughing? You'll get the call. Having watched our show, so I guess that badger didn't survive.
We're always shopping in the second tier, though, aren't we? We're always shopping in the centre aisle at Aldi. We're hoping for a centre half. We'll probably come back with a garden aerator and a pair of flip flops and a factor 50 sunshade.
A waterproof scatter cushion.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I've got quite a few of those. Thank you very much.
That was only aimed at you, Tony. It was only aimed at you.
They come in quite handy for a few nocturnal activities. Thank you very much. I'll have you know.
A little bit of comfort when you're not setting off the lights in the back garden.
Well, you know what they say, when the missus and the dog are not available, you know.
I mean, this is it. Come and join us for a laugh. This should be a trailer. Look at them laughing. Bless them, giggling away. Look at them having a laugh.
We've realised throughout the season that this is more of a self-help group for like-minded liberal men than an analysis of Tottenham Hotspur, because that would lead to more calls to Samaritans than you could possibly imagine.
I mean, we've actually lowered the suicide rate in the UK. I don't know if people are aware of that. I don't say that lightly. This is heavy stuff we're dealing with, but we're actually offering something that ought to be on the NHS.
And in the event that it does go wrong, in the event that it does go wrong, we've encouraged people to remove the Spurs shirts to avoid embarrassment to their families.
We are a public service, mate. That's what we are. We're a public service.
We're funded by the size of our hearts. I mean, I thought Pete's video from Turkey was great, where they had one sun lounger with a Herbalife bag on it, and the other one with a Spurs thing. He said, and make sure nobody comes effing well near your lounger.
I thought the video from the Viking impersonator Chris in Turkey was pretty good, but I'm sure Pete was busy with the kids in Essex all weekend.
Viking impersonator, Mr. Dangerous himself.
Yeah, Mr. Angry.
who's launched a new product this week called the Deathogram. Only available in the Romford and Barking areas. But
so what did cause me pretty much to giggle was the thoughts that West Brom go get Ryan Mason as their potential new manager.
Wow.
Like, how and why? They remain a fairly ambitious big club in the West Midlands and in the Championship. So how does a man who's achieved nothing potentially walk into that gig?
I mean,
well,
I was just going to say, just in basic terms, and not mocking, anybody, but just look at his points per game where he has managed. I mean, his track record as a coach isn't impressive at all. I mean, I know West Brom are in their own particular sort of position. I've got a pal of mine who's in particular, I'm just thinking of him now. And he's a massive West Brom, goes home and away, massive West Brom fan. And I mean, I haven't spoken to him in a while. I haven't seen him, probably partly because of mood, but he doesn't go out very much because he's got a young child. But I mean, what he would make of Ryan Mason, it shudders me, because they're quite actually very modest people. They don't have colossal expectations, and it's the old boing boing. You know, they know that relegation is something that is very tangible, very plausible, could happen, not to be ruled out, and they take the rough with the smooth. They've got tons of debt, don't have a great quality of playing personnel. So really, I would have thought that you're looking for something a little bit more kind of inspirational in terms of a coach. And I don't know how, if this is true, but how this has manifested itself, and how, you know, the story has got to a point whereby Ryan Mason is seen as somebody who can bring a bit of hope and energy to the proceedings.
Well, I think when the chairman of West Brom was interviewed, he was saying, "Well, I'm really, really excited to get somebody like Wyan in."
He's one of our own.
Yeah,
But I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe he'll go there and he'll do a good job. It's a very physical end of the footballing spectrum. And I don't say that in a nasty way. I mean, it's just the reality. I don't think there are any easy games, and I think all those divisions, they're tough. And I don't know how tough Ryan is.
I don't see that as being a good appointment. I really don't. Sorry, Chris. I don't. For a championship, in the championship, we know how tough it is. We know how physical it is. It's week in, week out. You know, it literally is Tuesday or Wednesday, Saturday, every week. Yeah. And Ryan Mason has not got the experience or the physicality in terms of his own, you know, his experience and what have you. The actual sort of kind of mental toughness. I just don't see it there. I really don't.
I think all it takes is either a good agent or a good CV, and by the agent, I'll refer to Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting, who was a failure at Stoke, but somehow ended up at PSG, where he won the French league no end of times, and then ended up at Bayern Munich, where he went on to win the Bundesliga no end of times. And the CVs, if you make them look good and put any old nonsense that anybody believes, you end up in the Tottenham boardroom, because seemingly that's what most of our hires have been of late.
Well, I think our boardroom's largely dependent on how the LinkedIn algorithm works.
Yeah, Dr. Evil sitting at the table with his finger pensively waiting to hit the button to release them into piranha-infested waters, as they dared ask where the ambition of the club was.
So, I must correct you on this. Mutated sea bass. Let's get it right. Let's get it right.
Okay. with mounted with lasers.
Mounted with lasers.
Lasers.
What do you mean, Donna? What do these people expect us to have ambition for?
Ambition.
Can't they just be content with the plastic flags we gave them?
How's your flag doing? Is it still going?
Yeah, it's mounted in the garden for all to see.
That'll make you what your local neighbourhood watch will refer to as a target.
Yeah, I'll have to report it as no, I better not say that.
Right, so I would say we've done very well getting to 52 minutes, because we were a day late, but that doesn't really affect things enormously.
And the West Ham game was shit, and there was very little to talk about.
Well, yeah, I mean, the West Ham game was absolutely awful, and we had Ange there saying afterwards about that he was very proud of everybody and they were exceptional and they were outstanding. He genuinely doesn't know what he's looking at. I mean, I'd say he goes home and the wife, you know, should give him a can of dog food with a biscuit stuck in the top of it. I go, that's wonderful, darling. He hasn't got a clue. His just brain doesn't work.
Everything he was saying, it was all these things about outstanding and putting a great shift. I said, my God, that's some industrial strength turd polishing going on there, isn't it? Let's face it.
I would imagine that he may suffer from industrial strength turds. I don't know, but one might suspect that's a part of his condition, and that's for you, everybody in Australia, you bastard.
Yeah. Ange Postecoglou, the poster boy for Imodium.
Yeah, I mean, don't worry about Weight Watchers. Imodium might have a starting 11 that needs mismanaging. You know, the options are endless. No wonder the future's bright.
He drives me that little bit closer to a one-way trip to Dignitas.
Again, he could be your hostess with the mostess at Dignitas. G'day.
I didn't realise there was a two-way trip from Dignitas, Chris.
Well, it depends if you get the VIP package or not.
Two-way ticket. Yeah, and second prize is 2 trips to Dignitas.
So you can be double killed. Yeah.
It's the Bonza bonus, mate.
Yeah. Well, the first
This
time
show was brought to you in association with the Natural Laughing Gas Company.
the first time Timo Werner was the executioner. So I was just shot in the shoulder. I had one eyeball taken out, and I took one to the torso. So they felt obliged to put me in for the second trip to
Next
finish
time
the
you
job.
see somebody who's got just like numb down one side of their body. Oh, you got Dr. Werner, did you?
How can you in one podcast, right, turn around and say we're lowering the suicide rate for the country? They're talking about Dignitas.
Well, it's just because we haven't managed to crowbar any serial killers into this show.
That's assisted. I don't know what the word is, but that they are assisting you to go to your happy place.
Exactly. And we're deterring people. We're giving people another option to doing something unthinkable in the garage.
That aligns nicely with that Swiss buffoon Raymond Vega, who I wish people would stop referring to him as a club legend. He played 66 games in a particularly shit period of our history.
He was your best mate last week. 2 weeks ago, he was your mate.
Did you hear him on TalkSport the other day saying, well, of course, if Ange wins the Europa League, then he deserves to be given another season? No, he doesn't. Just go back to Switzerland.
No, I mean, if he were to win the Europa League, I'd say, well, just go easy with him, using the stun guns. Don't fry him alive. But no, we need to get a shot of this guy. We've covered it to death.
Well,
he isn't doing anybody any good.
I thought it was good earlier, H, when you were talking about vigorously fisting victims, that you've all put Joe Bugner up in the equation. Clearly, you can't get Australians off your mind, can you?
Well, I think my mind has been polluted by the freaks of nature recently. It's very strange waking up in the morning and seeing that somebody has been in and had a go at you at 3 a.m. But that's the way they operate. They come by night, as they say.
Yeah.
The Boy HOTSPUR podcast, brought to you in association with Skippy, the bush kangaroo.
And Rolf Harris, the clues are always there.
Is he stuck in the well again, Skip? Right, folks, that's it for now. Thank you very much indeed. We love you lots. We do enjoy this, and hopefully you too have survived another few days, thanks to the miracle of our healing powers. It's goodbye from Tony, goodbye from Chris, and goodbye from myself. That's it for now. Don't forget, keep it on. Let's switch that off before any of the rude stuff goes out live.